Saturday morning to you. What do you know? I'm kind of on time, sort of on time, and ready to hang out with you and chat about, well, whatever. Theology, life, and the rest of it. Saturday morning chill. And while I'm waiting for somebody to show up, I am so confused. Why? Uh-oh. That's weird. I just went to YouTube on a log thing for it. What does that mean? Can you? Oh, no. I just got afraid that something weird is happening. And now I can't even get back to Ecamm. There we go. There we go. What I can't tell, Ecamm used to show me how many viewers I had, so I'd know if you were here. And now it doesn't. And there's a little lock. And if I hit that lock, view post on YouTube private mode. No, see, that's not what I want. So I'm very confused by this. Absolutely. And it makes me wonder, oh, good, you are here. Because I was doing, someone liked it, that's how I know. I was doing another live thing, and then it turned out that it was streaming private, which I don't know that I made those settings ever exist. And so I don't know. I'm a little confused. But good morning, good to have you. It is bright and not bright early, yeah? I have a few questions to start us off today, stuff that's been stockpiling. I mean, there's a lot of questions that have come in that I've been, I read them all, but then you have this issue where you have to keep them somewhere, and you have to remember where you kept them, and then you have to find them, and then you have to look at them and decide which one to answer. And then you have to answer it. And that process, I don't want to say tedious is totally the wrong word. That process is gargantuan. In terms of like emotional mental energy. So I have a stockpile, and this morning I was able to remember where some of that stockpile is. And I know there's more somewhere else. And so we have a couple that are really recent, and then we have some that we'll maybe see how much we can just kind of bust through all of those. So wow, Bryce from Japan. I just got to give that call out right there. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. I don't know if that's the right response to konnichiwa. Konnichiwa is like hello, right? I can say doyo toshitomoshita. I mean, I might be pronouncing it totally wrong. All right. And Dinosaur Planet's in bed sick. I'm sorry, Dinosaur Planet. Welcome to life. Mostly. Most of the time. Yeah? All right. So what we're going to do, first off here, I got to remember which one I want to go to first. Yeah, we're just going to go right in here and start dealing with... Well, this is the letter that I wanted to share with you last week, and then I couldn't find it. I thought I found it, and then, I probably shouldn't have the name on there. I thought I found it, and then I didn't. I read you a different one. But I wanted to share this one because it really does summarize or show that however you might feel about my particular personal opinions and or frustration with regard to what I have called the insularity of the congregations and culture of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. No fault to our theology, not at all. However you might feel about that, I struck a good nerve in a few places. I struck a bad nerve in a few places too. That's been fun. But we gotta live with each other, right? And so if there's a few of us feeling this way, then maybe there's something going on, right? So here's what it says. Where to start? Thank you is the best thing I can say up front. You're a huge blessing. I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, not yeah, but yay, right? Different. But yes, thank you. Thank you for saying thank you. Good. Wife, mom of 3, business owner, pastor's kid, missionary kid. I don't know what AFB means. Daughter of a man who was a pastor and went to seminary, Gordon Conwell. A place I learned that all people who go to seminary don't believe in God. Oh, that's a thing, yeah? Deep thinker, huge reader, introvert, and sometimes perfectionist. From the above, you can deduce I was not raised LCMS, neither was my husband. We are outsiders to the church and huge outsiders to the culture of the LCMS. To say that I love the doctrine would be lowercase, abbreviated, and understated statement, but the rest of it has been hard to learn and deal with. We have no family that is the LCMS. We don't have 7, 8, 10 children. We do homeschool. It's interesting because, as you mentioned, the children, not a lot of LCMS has 7, 8 children, just the pastors have it seen these days. We're not from Nebraska. The Midwest are German descent. We're pretty much everything the Guard is not. I strongly hold to close communion, high quality in our elders and leaders, steadfastness to what I'm confirmed in, and wish for stronger leadership discernment within the church. At our current church, I'll bet dollars, we're the best catechized of the bunch, and it's scary and sad. We've been there a year, and in that time, I have to become the go-to person for the elder and the president of the congregation to ask about if we're doing something right. I'm a leader by nature, but I did not plan to do this in the church setting. I wanted the place where the leadership was sound, but not many church options. We've had to settle for the best of what's available. And I don't think she's knocking her congregation here. I think she loves her congregation. And you got to hear this, right? That when we talk about this, we're not saying the congregation's bad. We're saying we want the congregation to be what it is more. Right? You got to hear that. You got to hear that. I want a place where leadership was sound, but not, I said that already. We're trying to get our daughter through confirmation. It's been a struggle. With a pastor who's laissez-faire about the whole thing. How often does a pastor have a chance to instruct a very willing teenager? Well, not often. I got to say to that. I'm gonna tangent here for just a moment as I continue to worry about the fact that your name was showing when I put the letter up. I really apologize for that. It shouldn't ever go anywhere, hopefully. But I just had a conversation with my elder on Thursday, and I shared with him an idea I had. This comes out of stuff we did talk about this last week a little bit, but I really want to do this now. I really, really, really want to do this now. I said, oh no, I didn't bring tissues in here. Oh, that's brutal. I said, what if? Now just bear with me. Let me get to the end because it's going to sound radical. What if we canceled confirmation class? Wait, don't freak out. We're gonna put something in its place. What if we canceled confirmation class and had instead that 1 hour a week that we're all still getting together and the kids are still coming, but we want adults in the room as well, and we just did sort of like a generalized catechesis. Well, I don't want to say catechesis. A discipleship class that is focused on taking the Augsburg Confession, the Small Catechism, and applying it to real-world realities, right? So it's not just 10 Commandments in the news, and it's not just let's talk about Trump and Pelosi or whatever. It's not really that at all. But it is like, how do we think about being Christians in the present age, right? So if we did that, and we put prayer services on both sides of it, which we already have that there now, and then here's the clincher. This is what I want to do so bad. What if we set up a scheduling system where there's space every week so that once a month, I get a full hour with each kid one-on-one? What if we did that? What would happen? What if out of that hour, there was homework for the month, right? And it'd be very similar to what we're doing now, where we are, which involves Old Testament videos, basically Bible projects, and some reading Lutheranism 101 with the family and things like that. What would happen if I was able to spend an hour with each kid one-on-one? I know what would happen. First off, I'd get to know them really well. Second off, I'd be able to tailor their learning to what they want to know. And I'm not saying I'm not talking about throwing them, garbage because they want it, right? Itching ears. No. I mean, I'd be able to figure out what they're curious about and then use that as the in to press them further into the Bible. Yeah? What about that? And I didn't share this part yet with him. He kind of liked this idea. And then the key, I think that this time one-on-one is like so potentially explosively valuable. But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to say, oh, by the way, this is year-round. Right? It's only once a month. Come on. And there's no really kind of official break from this. And that just because you get confirmed doesn't mean it stops. Yeah? Doesn't mean it stops. What do you think of that? How often do you get a chance to instruct a very willing teenager? Well, I think I would have a few in this group. I really do. And I think a few that aren't willing might become a bit more willing. Call me nuts. That's my idea. But I get it. Like, here's the thing to be best constructioning, right? We've talked about this in other places. Pastors, we got a raw deal. I mean, unless you're one of those special ones that's making like the $500,000 a year because you got a football stadium or whatever, they're making more than that. But most of us are making an income that's below our growing up standard of living and below our education standard of living. Okay, now that's not I don't care about the money, but my point is, we're having to make ends meet a lot for what we're surrounded by. Right? We're always, the Joneses are always right next to us, and it's in our face, and we're having to kind of figure out how to feed those 8 kids, right? So that's going on, and in the meantime, the congregation as an organization, this is part of the insularity problem, man, we got issues. We got business issues that are just ransacking our congregations. And go back and listen to my conversation with Pastor Preuss about the secret societies and the lodges and the lodge system and the club mentality. Run that all through that. Think about, I don't know if you have one of these in town. We got a couple of these in town. These Italian dinner clubs. The Venetian was the one local here, and the Venetian's a cool place. They got a reception facility. They got bocce ball and heating for the winter in the back, and I mean it's all really cool. But my understanding is really struggling to keep membership up because it's a private club. You got to pay your dues, right? So our little private clubs, LCMS private clubs, we're struggling hard, and so the pastor, his job is not just to teach. Would that it were. His job is like to watch out for all of that somehow, and yet he has no authority or power or responsibility for much of it. It's almost as if, and this happens when you have if you have a business that's a failing business and it's a big one, you get a CEO to come in and try to change the culture, and like the biggest problem's the employees, right? I mean, I'm not saying that, it's always the actual employee at the congregation, but a lot of times the pastor's so busy trying to put out the fires that are being started by the volunteer employees, which are the members of the congregation, that time for those things that you're thinking about, you're exhausted by the time you get to it, right? Oh, man. Private confession absolution? When is that going to fit in this week, right? I mean, and it's sad, but that's what it feels like. So don't feel, keep working, and it looks like you are, and you got a good attitude about it. So you struggle. This is the point we want to focus in on. The only reason I remained LCMS is because of the doctrine. The community, the culture, the almost belittling we felt by not being on the inside has been hard to deal with and help our children through. Okay, so right. So you're not attacking your congregation here, right? And because you're talking about what I'm talking about. No one's malicious in this. This is not a malicious reality. This is like, imagine that you're an anthropologist studying cultures, and you landed on a desert island, and there's this group of people there that they're like really excited to see you, and then they kind of ignore you. And you're like, but I've got like an iPhone and like beads to sell, right? Not that. An iPhone and like I can teach you about your food and how you can make it better. Whatever, right? They don't care. They're like fine, and they're like sitting in there, and you're watching them, and they're like, their kids are getting sick because they brush their teeth with poop or something like that. Or you're like, oh, we can fix that for you. They don't care. That kind of cultural resistance, I think, is what it's like to walk into an LCMS church. And it's not that you want to walk in and fix it all, right? It's not why you're there either, right? But feeling on the outside, yeah. What is that? Outside of what? That's what I still can't figure out. Outside of what? There have been bright spots. On the whole, we've struggled. It's understandable. It depends on what you're looking for, too. That's another question. What are we looking for in church culture? Someone had another question that came through about how culture is not mandated in the Bible, which is true. And so, well, then what does a church culture look like? It's going to change, but it's going to have to also reflect something that's real in the present, right? And this is just it. That's what I'm talking about. And then you take it and you make an idol out of it. So it's reflecting the present, but then the present changes, and you're like, well, we got to get back to the past. That's what real truth is, right? Can't have buttons, got to have little stubby things instead, and that'll keep us safe from the devil. And it's not an LCMS insularity, but that does exist in the world. So, only through God's grace, amen, through online stuff, has my faith and my family been able to grow through the sound teachings of doctrine. I listen every day. Good. I'd say I was hungry for doctrine to understand it in a huge way. Opened up the scriptures. That's good. Fallen in love with this book, the Bible, that you're reading in a deeper way. Cords that are weaved through it the cords that are weaved through it were never part of my heritage. Okay, yeah. The connection, the beauty. Yeah. Amen to that. I guess what I want to say is don't lose faith. Talking to me. I'm not going to lose faith. I'm doing fine. We do need to make changes in the church, but for those truly seeking, it will be found. Yeah, amen. Election will happen, with or without us. That's kind of my shot across the bow is, without us is a possibility. Yeah, and I think it should be with us, given that we retain the doctrine of the true Church of God on earth. Maybe we should not let that rain shower of life giving water pass, as Luther talked about, without trying to keep it. No, as an outsider, the blessing of this gift is almost beyond words. Breaks my heart to see it not handled with care. Yeah, amen. And now, yeah, what you made me think of right there is an image burned into my mind. This exists in more than one LCMS church, and this is hardly, the abomination of desolation. But what I see, your comment about it not being handled with white gloves, is a picture, and this is from a previous congregation I served that, in theory, was a very confessional, public, liturgical, we do it right here congregation. And I remember staring at the garbage can in the sacristy after service, Sunday morning, 3 services, at the host of small plastic cups filled with wine, which may or may not still be Jesus, but I kind of think it is. And even if it's not, it was Jesus. And so it's holy, right? Set apart. And I remember just staring at that and thinking, nah. How do we ever get to that point with the sacrament? It's decades that got us there. How? We're so insistent that the Presbyterians are wrong, right, which they are, and yet we treat it as if they're right. Crazy, right? Crazy. So yeah, I get it. I now have the gift of knowing that the service isn't about what I do for God, amen, but what he does for me, and it is monstrous. That's a good word, I hope you're saying, right? A huge, really big deal. After being baptized 3 times, I'm sorry, walking up for altar calls at least as many times, isn't it amazing how they can manipulate you? Doing special music regularly, all in order to give something of value to God. Cattle on 1,000 hills was his. That statement was just wow. During confirmation, I had the pastor repeat and over, wrote on a sticky note, carried around with me for a long time. You and Luther. Luther had sticky notes in his pocket. It wasn't a sticky note, though, but same idea. I never felt like I'd done it right, and maybe something had not clicked. This was a pastor's daughter who had listened and read countless books by people such as Dobson, Raby, Billy Graham, John Piper, Philip Yancey. Yancey's got a couple things on grace. Francis Schaeffer, good apologist, right? But yeah, somehow you missed the grace and all this thing. Isn't that amazing? I thought I knew the Bible, did not. I'm learning it now. I just had a thought. I'm gonna check my sound. Darn tootin'. Wrong mic. Grr, why does it do that? All right, now you should hear me sound better. You go ahead and talk in the comments. Go ahead and talk in the comments about how it's funny that I feel bad, and so you shouldn't make fun of me because I feel bad because I'm too hard on myself. But you think it's funny, so you're gonna laugh at and make fun of the fact that you're not gonna make fun of the fact that my mic was not on. Right? Yeah. So you do that. I'm gonna keep reading. Jeez. If I was a man, I think I'd be on the road to seminary in St. Louis. In Fort Wayne, not St. Louis. Smiley face. Well, yeah, that's kind of the way it is. I love the depth of what we have to offer, and though I've heard the slogan "Dare to be Lutheran," I don't think that the difference has ever really gotten across within the church. No, of course not. They have no frame of reference. Well, that's just it. What's Lutheran even mean? I am going to have to leave and get a tissue. That is ridiculous. Think about it. I'll be right back. Answer this question. Oh, don't fall down. What does Lutheran even mean? Yeah, and yes. Oh, my goodness. No! It's not finished. I don't spend enough time on it. This is just sitting here with one little thing, and then this chair, which is lovely, is way too big. I'm going to do something here before I start talking again. I'm going to go ahead and look
All right. Yeah. You know what? I never showed you the letter. That's great. That made the name not go on. Because I could do it now. There we go. We were supposed to be doing this the whole time. That's why I was looking sideways. Yeah. All right. We're going to come back to. You're still watching? I don't even know why. Goodness gracious. You're going to come back to um, what's Lutheran mean? But in case you saw that, like, that thing that just happened before it all fell down behind me and I fixed it, the getting out and getting in, and you're like, what on earth was he doing? Yeah, so I'm in a closet, and I feel like my camera's off now. Goodness gracious. Like it's not centered. Did I bump it? I'm in a closet. And I'm behind a desk in a closet. So if you do the math on that, this desk is 4 by 3 probably. It's kind of cool. It's an older desk that was like this nasty brown, and my wife kind of finished it with this gray stuff, and it looks really cool now. But we were using it for one thing, but we didn't need it for that anymore. And she's like, "Let's put it in your studio." I'm like, oh, "It's not gonna fit." And she's like, "Oh yeah, it will." I'm like, "I don't know." And they did it, but then it was in a place where you basically see the door behind me all the time. I was like, "Eh." And so I flipped it, and it does fit. Only now the door, which is right there. I should just show you. Oh my goodness, look at this. Right, there's the door. That is the way to get out of my studio and in. So, thankfully, I'm slightly flexible still. Not much, but enough to hop over that. Except for then when I went to get the tissue, I hit my knee on the table and then accidentally bumped a trampoline, which is sitting out there. We have like a little trampoline for, this way, for morning exercises. I only spend about a minute on it. My kids use it quite a bit, just to get the cardio going a little bit. But I hit that. It's up against a wall and it fell. So if you heard a noise, that was that. And meanwhile, my wife was there, like having just woken up, and she's just looking like, "What are you doing?" All right, so let's come back to what is, if we're gonna say dare to be Lutheran, dare. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because I don't think Missouri Synod congregations don't want to be Lutheran. They do. They just mean different things when they say that. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't keep the name. Now, there are some who do finally say, well, you know what? We don't really want the name. And they turn into things like Legacy Church, right? Which actually, Legacy is not bad. But they shift the name. Why those churches want to be LCMS, I don't know. But most churches don't do that. And so there's something there. By the way, this is a heating pad. My hands are so cold this morning. There's something there about what we think this word has that's valuable to us. But it doesn't mean what our friend here is saying about, I love the depth of what we offer through the slogan, Dare to be Lutheran, and connecting that back here again to this idea that worship, where'd it go? Well, worship is not something you do, right? Where'd it go? I lost it in the thing. That you don't give something to God, but God gives something to you. Dare to be Lutheran. It's about God giving something to you. That's not what most people mean by Lutheran. I really don't think it is. And that's my question about insularity. It's like, by Lutheran, we're all talking about some other thing. And I think some people agree about it. And they've limited it to just what their congregation is as a social club. That's Lutheran. Or it's a heritage of my family came to this building every week for, a lifetime, so do we. Regardless of how much this building has changed, and we didn't notice it because it was a slow boiling frog change kind of thing, we're going to cling to what we are now, call that thing Lutheran, and we're just committed to it, and we'll dare to be that, for sure. There is something about being embarrassed to be Lutheran. I think we all are. I know I say it with a little bit of shame when someone asks what... When I'm out in the community, this is terrible. I should be better at this. I don't know how to be better at this. I'm sitting there. I don't know. Where's a good example of this? Oh yeah, we were talking to a realtor yesterday. This would be a good example. Um, uh, you know, you get in a conversation like that. So you met someone that's like semi-professional, but not really, but kind of, or they're gonna get service from you in some way, they're a contractor or whatever. And like, so what do you do? And I kind of go, I'm a pastor. And they're like, oh, great, where? I'm like, St. Paul Lutheran Church. Oh, where's that? Yeah. it's not one of those little mom and pop ones, I promise, where there's like 10 people and me and my wife. No, it's actually a thing. But yeah. And then, and it's not, I'm really overemphasizing it there, but like there's that moment where it's like, how am I supposed to sell this thing? Huh? How am I supposed to sell this thing? Because I know if I was like, oh, it's super cool, awesome church right over there on Alpine Road, I'm the pastor there, they'd be like, oh, wow. Right? And it's not that. And you always have the bit about, oh, you're well, if you're a Christian, it's either like, oh, you're a Christian. I just used a cuss word a moment ago and I feel really guilty and I don't believe in God at all and I hate Christians, but I have to keep talking to you because I want to sell you stuff. Right? And so you just make them feel really awkward. So that's one option. The other option is that they're a Christian and they're like, oh, great. Isn't it good when God leads you places and gives you the Spirit and makes you feel so full and joyful, just like this thing I want to sell you? Right? And so you're like just stuck and you're like, but yeah, the Spirit does mysticism and I'm gonna go back to my place now. Yeah, we just don't have like we don't have a face. We don't have a face to give out other than to criticize their heresy, or I think with the the skeptical atheist person, just to not want to talk to them. Like we don't want to talk about it, right? Why? I'm not accusing you. I'm talking about me. Why? Because I'm embarrassed. What am I embarrassed of? I'm not entirely sure, but it's connected to this. That I'm not sure we're proud of being Lutheran. And I know I'm not proud of the word Lutheran. I'm not. I don't know what it means. I just don't know what it means. Someone's going to be like, Pastor Fisk, it means what the Book of Concord says. You're right. I love you. Completely agree that's what it should mean. When you use it out loud as sounds in America, it doesn't mean that. Yeah. So, and this is kind of language theory, but really, what does any noise mean? The confusing of the tongues at Babel has done a real number on our ability to grunt and be understood. No words just inherently have meaning as sounds. There is inherent meaning. I don't think that this undoes the nature of truth the way postmodern theory takes it, but I think it's pretty hard to disagree with the fact that if you run into somebody who speaks a different language, no matter what sounds you make, it doesn't really help you very much. And if you have, in each language you have the same sound, it can mean two totally different things. So which one's true, right? So Lutheran then, as a word in English in America, isn't defined by us. It's defined by its usage in America. So what does it mean? And again, I think most people don't know. Most people don't know. There's some inkling of like, you're kind of like the Catholics, and you're kind of like the Methodists, and you're kind of like the Episcopalians, but I'm not really sure. You're definitely weird. Right? Like you're definitely a group of people who are together because you have a cultural weirdness that you want to hold on to. But I don't know what that is, but that's kind of probably what you are. But there ain't no way I'm visiting your church. Because I don't know. It says Lutheran on the front. That's a good reason not to go. I don't know what it means, but it's a weird thing, right? So anyway, I don't want to get on a high horse about the word Lutheran. I know that we are not proud of it in such a way that we're all out there talking about it in such a way that it doesn't sound like we're just boasting in ourselves about how everyone else is wrong. Yeah. Uh, oh, goodness gracious. That made me think of something and then I lost it. But I'm going to go ahead and keep reading this letter. Ah, ah. You're right, though. So the thing is, the hunger to be what the Lutheran confessions say, to dare to hunger for that, is not your average congregational reality ever-ish. There's a few. There's some that are trying, right? But here's an interesting thing. This kind of connects to that same conversation I was having the other day with my head elder. So, like, there's this idea that you need to have a mission statement for the church and a vision statement for the church that's been around since the 80s, 90s, business theory. And, when it comes to marketing, I kind of agree. Like, you want something pithy to, like, help people know why we're here, right? You want an identity. You want a slogan. Everybody's got a slogan on whatever they're selling. So if you're going to sell something, like membership at our club, you need a slogan. So cool, get it. I'm okay with that. But that's not really where mission statement, vision statement, theory comes from and goes. Right? That's branding. But mission statement stuff is not about branding so much as it is about defining your reason to exist as an organization. Like, why are you here? And then when you're making decisions officially as an organization, that you always have that idea in front of you and you keep it in front of you. So you're always asking, well, if we do this, how does it impact our reason for being here? If we do this, how does it impact our reason for being here? Will it change it? Will it hurt it? Will it help it? So then you have this movement come along, and it comes into the LCMS churches in the 90s and the 10s or whatever, the zeros. And everyone's kind of coming up, well, loving people for Jesus, all this kind of stuff, right? Which no one ever really used them to make their real decisions anyway. But I've never run into anybody who has said this out loud to me. So it's only been in my own head so far. I never run into anybody who said to me, we already have one. What do you mean we need a mission statement? What do you call it can be the second, it can be the third article of the Constitution. In every single one of these congregations, there's a Constitution, and either the second or the third article is pretty clear that we are here to, our meaning as an organization is to cling to and practice the Scriptures and the Lutheran confessions. That's it. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. I've never seen that talked about in that way, nor have I yet to even go to one of my own meetings that I lead. Hopefully I'll get us there eventually, where we have that article on the table and like start the night, end the night, whenever we're in a discussion, it is, okay, so how does this either strengthen or hinder clinging to the Scriptures and the confessions in the present age? That's what I would think daring to be Lutheran would actually look like. My children have the benefit, back to the letter. That was a long tangent, wasn't it? My children have the benefit of learning this from almost the ground up, and for that I'm eternally thankful. Yeah, amen to that. But I'd have to say, learning this all feels like when I did my marathon training and you do a treadmill test and the speed just keeps going faster and faster, all where the incline rises. I feel like I'm learning so much, but it only highlights how little I know. Well, that's just life, right? It's Bible life too, but it's life in general. The wiser you get, the more foolish you know you are. Take that one to the bank. I mean, just write it down, tattoo it. Unless you think tattoos are sinful, then don't tattoo it. But like, remember it. Yeah, remember it. I don't feel like I can speak out as a Lutheran. Ha-ha. I don't know the code. Aha. Exactly. I don't know I know what it means to me and my family, but I'll get it wrong. I've heard this from lifelong Lutherans too. Okay. So this is actually this is really helpful, I think, but I don't know why. I've heard from lifelong Lutherans who love their congregation, love our worship, love the church, go to Bible study, and have said exactly this: I'm afraid to speak to others about my faith because I might get it wrong. That's a fascinating thought. Obviously, we want to be orthodox, right? Duh. Does being orthodox mean scaring everybody into never talking, lest they be heterodox? I think that is a fascinating question. Do you have to be trained in apologetics and preaching? Be a professional Christian, right? In order to effectively talk about the faith. If we have gotten to the point where that is what we're saying the faith is, I'm probably chief of sinners in this thing. What we've done is, in the name of preserving it, we've stolen it from you. Because the whole point is for the Word of God to be, how's it say? In your heart and on your lips. I remember reading a book about mission, a terrible book. I honestly don't remember the name of it. It was a really big deal, though. I was really supposed to read this book. This was back when I was supposedly planting a church. Second time, actually. Long story. It's hard to plant a church while you got to take care of a dying church full of people who are insularly angry Lutherans. Not good to divert or distract the entrepreneur with a second job of managing a really bad McDonald's while he has to start a brand new coffee shop. Right? Not a good plan. But yeah, happened twice. The book. Oh, can I think of it? It was like the apostolic mystery, or the something. Anyway, what it purported to do was that this guy had like just read the Bible so much and so well, and he wasn't dumb. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't like, I don't need no cemetery kind of talk. This guy was he was a Bible scholar-ish guy, but not in a scholastic tradition. But he just pondered and prayed and loved and strived and missioned himself, and he'd read it so much so he had figured out the secret key of having mission work. The apostolic secret. It's not called the secret, though. What was it called? Oh, I can tell you the word it was. It's. You ready for it? The reason church needs to actually, or the reason the American churches aren't always growing, always getting better, is because we always are striving to have community, and the Bible teaches communitas. You're like, what? Dude, it's the same word. It's like, no, it's different. What? But my point in bringing this up is this. That book was like this thick. Okay, this is like a book that's supposed to be, hey, I figured out the really simple key to help us understand how mission works forever. And then it was like reading a manual on rocket physics. Like the insane depth and detail, the overthinking diagramming, the ridiculous level of effort that was put into the big reveal. Communitas. Sorry, this just still gets me. Oh my goodness. That is what I think about now as I look at this comment again. And this idea that you're afraid to get your faith wrong because you found the truth. You're saying how great it is you found the truth, and now you're afraid to speak it because you're afraid you'll not speak it truly. Then we don't have it. I think we do. But what are we doing with it to make us feel that way rather than to feel so confident that we have the truth? How can having pure doctrine make you afraid to speak it? What are we doing to it? What are we doing with it? It reminds me of a comment from one of my beloved members. Not sarcastic. Absolutely beloved member. After a Bible study, it was 2 weeks ago or so, And I don't remember what I said. It was an evening study, and it was like, so hey, yeah, how'd it go? What do you think? And she said, she kind of shook her head and said, "You're so far ahead of me." Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I'm not going to slow down because I'm not going to not be me. But it's the same thing here. It's like, wait a minute. Then I'm not helping you, am I? I mean, the point is not, and this is my own kind of wrestling out loud here. You know, when I teach, I always want to give you everything because it's awesome. But maybe that's not the most helpful thing. Maybe you just need the one thing to cling to, the one piece. You know, it's like I think about this with, well, you could apply it to raising kids in the faith. You could apply this to just raising kids in any way, sports or whatever, right? If you got your, in fact, I'm gonna use sports because I just remember watching. I still have seen this. It's really easy. The difference between a great seventh grade boys basketball coach or volleyball coach, whatever sport, put your sport in. And let's leave aside psychological realities, right? Because you got these people that just like to yell at people, and that doesn't help. But let's just talk about skill development here, right? The difference between a great coach and a mediocre coach is that a great coach only cares about the fundamentals, and a mediocre coach only cares about the plays. A great coach may not even ever have plays because the fundamentals are so much more important at that level. And a mediocre coach, well, the thing is, they never practice the fundamentals because they're so busy trying to get the kids to run these plays. So you got this kid who can't dribble a ball. You're trying to tell him to dribble a ball while also thinking about lines on the ground he can't see that he has to stay on top of. And then they get in the game, and then that's what they do, is they're just like, I got to run over here, and I got to run over there, and then I got to go stand here, and wait, they just scored on us. How'd that happen, right? So it's like that, right? And in theory, the small catechism is the fundamentals. But even that's become so complicated the way we do it. It's like, are you allowed to, like, I don't know. This is so what I'm trying to get at, though. Because if this is not only what we turn you into when you join us, but if it's what we are too, then that's who we are. I don't know what all the vestments are called. Letter goes on. I don't understand the colors. Aw, they're awesome. I don't know all the players. Players? I'm learning them and appreciating them after 12 years now, but it's been a slow go. I used to be in the in crowd. Now I'm not. It's okay to be in with the out crowd. I don't have the pedigree. Yeah. I'm not just thankful to be at the table. Amen. That's a biblical reference. Every congregation we have attended has been different, and some more concerned about who you are than what you believe. Yeah. But God is faithful to show up where his word is preached. Amen. I'm so thankful that at least that has always been present. We will be LCMS till we die, but it hasn't been an easy or necessarily welcoming journey. Yeah. There have been some bright spots, and those are what kept us coming back. Mention some names. Good names. My two teenagers, my 4-year-old, asked to listen to all y'all. We consistently have it playing at our breakfast, lunch, dinner table. We listen to the car, everywhere we go. Grateful. Keep on being mad. Amen. We're listening and thankful. I could go on and probably haven't said it as well as I like or in the best format, but I think you get the gist, which makes me wonder about the word gist, etymologically speaking. What a fascinating looking little word. Yeah, right? So, yeah. Thank you for the letter. Thank you for the letter. The question, the question continues. Let's go to a different letter here and see if we can shift this. Sorry for come back. Sorry for ignoring the comments so far, but this is all fascinating. Well, why is it doing that? That's interesting. All right, I just want to see this. There. Okay, so another letter, and this kind of hits on. I'm gonna give a little caveat before we start. Oh, I gotta be here for the camera. There we go. I know my caveats don't always get heard. It's important that they get heard, and I get it if they're not put in the shorter video. That's fine. I get it. But if you send me a letter about what I say, and he didn't listen to the caveat that I put out before I said it, I'm actually not talking about anything specific at the moment. So if you think I'm talking about you, I'm not. I'm talking about more than one experience. Like, I'm just going to tell you, well, you got to listen to the rest of what I said, right? Like, it's not fair to take one line and make that everything I said. Yeah. So the caveat on this thing is, and I've said it from the start of this conversation on insularity, I'm not talking about liturgy. I'm not really talking about worship. I think it could potentially apply to the adornment of worship, but it's not really the issue. Like, it doesn't matter what we're doing in worship. I don't mean that in like do whatever you want. I mean, like, if you're just sitting there with your old hymnal and a really slow, mediocre organ player and a pastor who speaks while the congregation sings the chant, which is weirder than anything, it doesn't matter. That's not why someone's going to join or not join the church. That's not why someone's going to come or not come to a Lutheran church. It can be overwhelming, to be sure. It can be part of, like, once they've had to work through the rest of the entry into the building, now it's like, well, that's too much. That can be true. But you can change that and make that the most amazing experience you ever had. And, I don't know, discoteca. It's not going to make them stay if we're still, what? Standoffish. So I haven't really been talking about liturgy. So you just gotta hear that ahead of this. What would a Lutheran service or Lutheran church life in general look like without the insularity? What would you see in the service and the preaching, the fellowship within the vocations and without, right? So, well, that's like the wrong question to me still. I understand this is a loaded question and obviously an overly detailed answer, but may not be realistic. Yeah, truth. But there are some ballpark ideas which you should put out there as examples for what Lutherans in the 21st century should look like. I think that if you could articulate a few specifics, you might be able to garner more conversation about it. Now that people should clearly understand you're not trying to turn Lutheranism into American evangelicalism part two, and not on purpose at least. Not opposed to bratwurst and sauerkraut at a potluck dinner, generally not, because they happen to be German. Anyway, food for thought. Keep putting the good stuff out there. So, do people understand that? I would say this. Okay, so here's this. That people aren't going to like this. My wife, I sometimes say that to her. I'm like, you're not going to like what I have to say. And she's like, stop saying that. And she's right. But I just did it to you, so I feel bad. And now I'm kind of using her to lead into a very weak apology. But I said it, and the reason I do say it as a habit is I don't want you to judge me based on the truth I'm here to bring. I want you to think about it before you get upset. I think the organ is a great example of the issue. It's not that you can't have an organ. It's that we think you have to. And this topic is so, what is it? A lightning in a bottle. Want to have a fight, talk about this to some Lutherans. One side or the other. So that most of our worship wars conversations have always been about the organ, which is ridiculous because that's not even what revivalism's about. Oh my goodness. But we let them get away with it. It's like, well, we don't have to use the organ. And it's like, well, I guess that's technically true. But we really think you should, right? And it's like, that's the whole argument. What would a Lutheran service look like without the insularity? It would look like people who don't think that the organ is the worship service. That's what it would look like. It would look at people who think the words are the worship service. It would look like people who, when they don't know the song, don't just give up and don't try to hum, but just start reading the words with a vigorous passion to find out why on earth the pastor picked it, because he never picked it for the song, for the music. He always picked it for the words. It would look like a congregation that, if it couldn't afford an organist or find an organist, wouldn't insist on playing organ on a CD, but would do something else to just sing the words. Now, that's just that is ballpark, right? That's just like really broad brush. But and immediately I think of a couple of friends of mine and my father, an organist, lifelong, who always want to say, but the organ is the most capable instrument for leading congregational song, and they amass their arguments, and they also talk about how, like, in the history of music and the ability to create basically power at the fingertips of one musician, there's nothing like an organ. Fine. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. Do we have to have the absolute what? Best? That's the wrong word here. Because we've always had something, and that thing happens to be, officially speaking, the absolute best thing of its kind in the world, but we can't use it any more efficiently or well, so that's not really the best at all, it's the worst. Can we imagine doing something that would be good? Right? I mean, and it's amazing if someone's like, which instruments he's thinking about? Okay, come on. I have tried so many times in my life to convince the congregation, or a small group of us at various places, we can just sing. Like, you don't need an instrument to sing. How do we grew you up, we taught you in such a way you're afraid to speak your faith and you're afraid to sing? What on earth? You know how beautiful it is to hear 5 men just singing? It's amazing. Add some women and some harmony, it's even more amazing. So what would it look like? It's not that you wouldn't have the organ or you would have the organ, right? If you're on that tact, you're not listening. So you wouldn't have to do one or the other. But you would have to have the words. You would have to have the words. You would never get rid of a hymn just because the tune sucked. You'd either write another tune, or you'd learn the tune and learn how to sing it well somehow, some way, or you'd have it read as poetry from time to time. But you would never just go grab some schlocky pop garbage set of words because the tune was better. And no matter what side of the worship wars you're on, I hate to break it to you, we're all failing that test. How many Luther hymns are sung? How often? So, what would it look like? It would look like we are fearless. It would look like we are fearless. And I'm not saying that there won't be saint and sinner realities. There are. There's going to be conflict. But we would face it with the word together. We've talked about this with preaching before. If pastor happened to go an hour or an hour and a half on his sermon, you wouldn't complain because you needed to be somewhere else, right? You might complain because it was a bad sermon. Like, don't get me wrong. Pastors should just have free course to stand up there and wander for an hour. Like, that ain't right. That's just dumb. But it would never be because of some other, I have to be here, or I got this going, this. Got a newsletter from Lutherans in Africa this week, which I still think the work James is doing over there is really good stuff. And it showed there were some ordinations that took place in a couple of different areas, and he was invited to participate in them. And he's not in charge of them. There's bishops in these places. Excuse me. But what was interesting was he talked about how for the congregations, the ordination of this pastor was like all day. Like church is like 2.5 hours. Nobody leaves. Like you're just all there. You stay, you talk, you hang out, you maybe do more church. Like there were multiple sermons. I mean, it's just like, it's like church was where you were supposed to be. And it wasn't the building. In fact, one of the pictures is so amazing. You can find the newsletter on their website, lutheransinafrica.org or lia.org, something like that. They didn't have a building. They had all these chairs in the woods. And that was church, right? That kind of hunger, commitment, belief, religion. That's an interesting way of asking the question. It's almost like Lutheranism's not our religion. It's definitely not our spirituality for the most part. Yeah. And look, each of us that are there, we have the faith. It is our religion. It is our spirituality. Okay? So I'm not saying that, but like corporately, it's almost like it's not. That's not why we're there as a group. There's always something else. What would it look like? I don't know. More Bible. Less Lutheran slogan. More Lutheran substance, which would never need Lutheran slogan. It wouldn't necessarily be embarrassed of it, but neither would it be tied to it. This is it. Oh, here it is. This is good too. The word Lutheran itself. Okay, so we already talked about, like, it doesn't have a meaning, right? Could we, the way you answer this question will say a lot. Are we free to get rid of the name Lutheran? I'm asking if you want to. I'm not asking if you think it's a good idea. Are we free to do it? Can we do it and still be Lutheran? Never use the word again. Think about it. Because if Lutheran is just what the Bible says, we should be able to be it without ever using the word Lutheran. Or even the history of Luther. It should be such that if some group of people found the Bible in a cave in Africa and read it, they could conceivably become Lutheran and never have even had a connection to the Lutheran Reformation officially. In fact, we even say that, we confess this, that the felicitous inconsistency is people who are effectively that. They may have a heterodox idea here or there that comes through, but they ignore it, and what they retain is more or less what the Bible says, which would be Lutheran. We're so tied to that word, aren't we? We are. And I'm not on some crusade to get rid of it. I just don't understand the crusade to keep it. Especially the crusade to keep the word more than what? Well, more than Article 2 or 3 of your Constitution. That's what. That's not Lutheran. Well, have you read the confessions? Do you know they exist? Oh, my goodness. All right. I have just drifted on all of this. Let's see here. Oh, come on now. So many things are happening on my computer. Why will you not? Ecamm. Oh, look at this. And now we're in darkness. What the heck? I muted you. Somehow I muted you. Stop it. Is it back? I turned off the camera and muted you. I don't even know what buttons I was pushing. In theory, this button should take me to... All right, so I'm going to go into this black screen in just a moment here. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to try to figure out why it's muted and doesn't share my screen anymore. I don't even know. Hold on. It's really slow, too. I show you audio capture and movie muted. How? Where? Oh my goodness. Where? I I don't know. I I sh- I sure hope you can hear me, because this is just like, it keeps telling me that when I go over there. Why would that do that? I'll be right back. I can't even go. What is this? I have no clue. Movie audio. Movie? Is it showing a movie? Golly, we're wasting so much time. Going away one more time. Oh, what just happened? Okay. Now the question is, can you hear me? That's the question. Uh, so I'm gonna stand here and wait a second. I'm gonna ask if you can hear me. Okay. You know what? You guys put up with so much from me on this. Ridiculous. Okay. So now I need to go to that. So we did this. We did this. Come on. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, let's do this one. One more, and then we're going to shift gears a bit. So I was born and raised LCMS Lutheran. However, thanks to my wife, who is PCA, that's Presbyterian Church in America, I was sort of a mutt. I still hold to a ton of both of those things, huh? Lutheran doctrine to heart, and will likely never let it go. You read the Book of Concord daily. That's amazing for a Presbyterian. I consider myself half Lutheran. I don't know what that means. I know what Lutheran means, remember? But half Lutheran seems even less clear, due to the fact that I find their good points in regard to the church structure. Oh, sorry. Find their due to the fact that I find the Reformed Protestant doctrine has some fairly good points, and bad ones as well. One of their good points is in regard to their church structure. Where the Lutherans base their structure on more of a hierarchy in the synod, nah, you don't understand it. The Reformed Protestants are, and you mean real Reformed, right? Are more specifically based on the system that Paul established. No, they're not. They say that, but they're not. They're making it up. My question is, why does the Lutheran denomination not base their own structure on Paul's established structure? Because it's not Paul's established structure. That isn't to say that the Lutheran system is wrong. Well, it would be if we had to do it according to the Bible. We would be totally wrong. But rather, if a biblical system is present, why would it be wise to avoid it? We don't avoid it. We acknowledge that there's nothing there. Okay. God bless you. Thank you for the letter. Here's the deal. First off, now I should say it this way. Herman Sassa, Lonely Way, Volume 1 and 2, read all of them. Okay? Just Herman Sassa, Lonely Way, Volume 1 and 2. It's a big task. Read all of them. I'll give you the short version. There have been a lot of different attempts to reconcile what the New Testament says about the office of the overseer and the various other terminologies of offices that exist in the New Testament. And everybody who tries to take all of these scattered words, always, with one exception, from descriptive passages and turn it into a system of governance ends up idolizing a human form of government that they created, usually reflecting the time period in which they are doing their work, and losing the very substantial actual thing that Paul does establish, that Jesus establishes, which is that there is a preaching office, an office of the ministry, an office of the keys, one thing, which is Jesus' commission to individual men through the church, for the church, to preach the gospel or die trying. That's what's established. And every other answer you come up with is human idea. So the presbytery, blah, 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 blah. Okay, sure. And Rome's over there saying the threefold system of deacon and priest and overseer. They got biblical passages for that. You think they just made that up? I mean, they did, but they took these terms that Paul uses and in various corners. It's not just Paul, by the way, but in various corners he uses these terms, but he doesn't use them the same way all the time. Nor does he give us a real clear lineup of how the what do they call it? The hierarchy tree would look and all that kind of stuff. What happens with the presbytery, though, is within the congregation, you don't have a pastor. You don't. Not the way the Bible talks about it. You have a teaching elder. So you have one of the elders, Presbyterians, technically, like a presbyteroi, and these elders are the ruling men of the congregation in theory, like a triumvirate of ruling men. And among them, one of them just happens to be better at teaching, and so he gets paid to do it. But you're all kind of just communists at the top, right? It's not communist everywhere. It's communist at the top. You have your little communist section at the top, round table, King Arthur and his knights. And then everybody else is sort of like kind of under their guidance and leadership. And I'm not against guidance and leadership. I'm not against the round table, honestly. King Arthur, that's awesome. But there's no office of the ministry. The pastor's just a dude. And the pastor in a Lutheran church is also just a dude who happens to be holding the everlasting office of Jesus Christ, the office of the ministry, the office of the keys, on behalf of the congregation. And if he takes his hand off the plow, it don't go well for him. He has the power to forgive and retain sins in Jesus' name on a eternal level. Quite a sword to carry. If we believed in it. So that's what you don't have. That's what Paul establishes. Instead, you have this other kind of finagled thing that really comes out of an age of democracy and belief in limited government. Actually, you kind of got the effort at the Republic, right? That Locke and whatnot led to American republicanism, which is great. Good for you guys on that. But there's nothing wrong with that until you start saying it's what the Bible says you have to do, and it's like, yeah, no, it really doesn't. And you're like, well, it has this word here and this word here and this word here. Yeah, there's a bunch of those. There's like a whole forest of those. And every effort to make them into one system will have to leave out some of the other words from other places. And that's what Lutherans are like, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to acknowledge we don't know what was going on. Chances are there was more than one kind or form of governance going on in the early church, depending on the congregation and their needs and what they could do, what they could handle. Great. And this is where Sauce is just a genius on this thing. The long and short of this is that we are free to govern ourselves however we find is the best, wisest, orderly way to govern ourselves. We're not free to not govern ourselves. And we're not free to reject the governance of word and sacrament office of the keys, which is the pastor's governance, leadership, oversight over us that is only run through the power of the word itself. And so he has no actual power. He just has the power of the word. We're not free to reject that at all, but we are totally free to set up a system of handling the building however we want. There were no buildings initially. What do you think that they were doing? You had pastors appointed to preach. They received money. They redistributed it to the poor, or they lived on it. I mean, it was kind of it. And yet you had pastors who oversaw other pastors. You had pastors who didn't. You had missionaries. I mean, there were prophets for a little while. There was a different kind of office altogether. They weren't really like a structural thing. So God bless you. I couldn't disagree more. I hope in my attempt to answer, I haven't been too overwhelming. But the assumption and the question I do not acknowledge. No, the Presbyterian system is not established by Paul. It's made up by men. If it was established by Paul, you'd find it in history rather than just suddenly in the 1600s. It would have been there far more clearly. What you have instead is you have an even more hierarchical format of the bishoprics, right? And very, very early overseers who are sort of ruling the area. And this gets worse with official money from the state and all that kind of stuff. But you have fatherhood in the church, and you have a father, and that father is appointed and recognized, and then he fathers. He shepherds. You have a shepherd in the church. He shepherds. That's the structure we've been given, which, frankly, I'm not sure in our particular Lutheran version that we've got, we believe in that either. So I'm not pointing fingers as if the kettle ain't black too. Woo! So, all right, cool. Let's just go on. Oh, don't do things you don't know how to do, Jonathan. Make things disappear again. All right, so why can I not get easily to my file finder system? Did I close it? Yeah. No. See, oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, what on earth? Okay. There's one more question in this folder that I just don't want to lose sight of. Ah, yes, this guy. I did not dig into this one hard. It was just because I just don't have the mind power to do it. It's a link to a rather lengthy article about how Romans chapter 1 doesn't mention homosexuality and that this is a modern idea. And so therefore the Bible's not against homosexuality. And if the word were translated differently, then everyone would be fine with homosexuality in the church. And it's not a new argument at all. This has been around for a while. I don't think it goes back to the 1800s, but it's in the same kind of camp of biblical reading and scholarship. And the long and short is that they're right in one way. They're right in this one way, that there was not a word, homosexual, by itself in the ancient Greek. Like, there was not a way to just say just that. Because, well, honestly, because the homosexual communities as they existed at that time generally preferred little boys. Younger men. 17, 16-year-old men. So you're 40 and that guy's kind of cute, right? Now, given how men's sexuality works in general, in the lustful passions that we have, this is not unlike heterosexual sin and lust and hunger. So there's nothing like shocking here. But then what the argument is that, well, since the word carries the connotation of hunger for the younger-faced, effeminate-looking man, therefore it does not include in the comment from Paul a reference to, say, two 50-year-old men who would just like to have sex with each other and pretend to be married. That doesn't count. And like in the most technical way possible, you're right. That's not precisely what Paul was talking about. He was generally talking about unnatural sexual actions, among which included are the pursuit of feminine men, meaning younger men, for the sake of sexual intercourse. That's an example he was using. He also he doesn't happen to mention, how you're not supposed to have sex with donkeys either. But see, you're not supposed to have sex with donkeys. I'm sorry, did I offend people by just talking about that? But this is just the insanity in which we're in right now. You're not supposed to do that. And it should be really, really clear, because it doesn't look like the parts are supposed to do that. Like if you're an alien civilization and you're going to be like scientifically, objectively studying the earth, and you see some guy all by himself in a field with a donkey, and then you see the town and what everyone's doing in the town, like you're like, that must be somewhat less than natural or normal, right? They would have to come to the same conclusion about using male genitalia inside of the rectal disposal unit of other men. They'd be like, now the science would tell us that thing's there to make the the refuse and unused fiber elements of their diet. Man, look at all that corn they're eating. It was supposed to all come out of that, and yet they're putting the other element, which is meant to create more of them. Dear God, they spread. Look at them go. That's what it's made for with the other type of their species, and yet they're putting it in the. That is odd indeed. Like you can't not come to that conclusion if you're going to be objective about this. I'm not talking about your heart and your feelings. And I look, our lust as humans is wretched. No one's off the hook in this. We're all dirty old men or women at some point, and we just don't look like it yet. In some way, we're all discontent and wanting more. So just because your particular form of passion happens to fit into this one category, it doesn't make you like less salvageable by Jesus. That's not how it works. But see, when you start saying that I don't have any problems, well, that's the one thing that makes you, well, unwilling to be salvaged by Jesus. So this argument then again, which basically is trying to make that case based upon the fact that the narrow word doesn't mean the modern word homosexual, but instead means a category that we really don't even have officially today. I mean, pedophile doesn't count either. These guys were acknowledged and acceptable in culture. This was not the guys who are being thrown in jail. These are like nobility that are paying to have permanent, 12-year-old boys kept around for sexual slaves. It's just normal. It was totally cultural. It wasn't countercultural or weird or underground for the Romans, who he's writing to. But it was an example of rejecting the evidently natural course of man and woman. And he uses that as an example of what happens when you don't believe in God at all. Is you get to the point where you're defending that. Which is what the article does. It's sad. Look, I mean, the guy who wrote it, he seemed like a really nice guy. He wants to be a homosexual Christian. I'd like a harem. But you know what? I'm not going to tell myself it's okay because David did it. Sorry. It's just wrong. It's evil. It's me. Hey, what you want to judge me now? Look, man, woman, it's wrong. I have wrong thoughts. Don't you? Oh, you don't, do you? Oh, I get it. You're perfect. I get it. All right, cool. Watch that one be taken out of context. All right, let's see. You guys have been talking. This is awesome. Oh my goodness, look at all that. I'm not gonna be able to get through all of that. Where are we at for time too? 7:48. We're not too bad. All right, let's see. Yeah, I will put it on the screen just because. Well, I mean, I'm trying to be like respectful and yet acknowledge the reality, We're out of here. Planet Earth is too depraved. That's right. Oh man, so long, and thanks for all the fish. Yeah, that's what I got on that one. Oh man, that's good. My switch was based on doctrine, the Word of God, and I was given the Book of Concord, and that changed my life. Amen. It did to mine too. I just wish there was like a way. I'm gonna keep that up here. Okay, here's the thing. Like Book of Concord, awesome. I've read that thing devotionally. It's been a little while since I did it, but I've spent so much time in those passages. But I also know if I take that book, pretty as the one from CPH is. If I take that book and I just hand it to somebody, unless they are absolutely starving to death, they're not going to open it. So what I want, this is just it. Hey, Lutherans, why haven't we figured out a way to take what's there and make it smaller as a part of promoting our brand? Why Why not? Why haven't we found a way to take the Augsburg Confession, which is pretty small in itself, and make it shorter still, as a way of singly handing out a one-page, trifold, whatever, glossy that gives you everything Christianity could ever teach? Why is it when you go to LCMS churches and you look at the What Do We Believe page, the Augsburg Confession is not just there? That's a different question. First one's about recognizing that, how's it go? Got to walk before you can run. And when we're handing people the Book of Concord, we're trying to make them run. Or I love this as a Wolfmüllerism. Speaking of that, that's what we should become, is Wolfmüllerites. And then we will have the Church of Wolfmüllerism. Because if there's a word out there, if there's a name out there that would make a worse church name than Lutheranism, it would be Wolfmüllerism. I mean, that just sounds, the Campbellites are way better sounding than that. Fiskism doesn't sound very good either, but it's short. I always felt, though, and I'm really tangenting, I always felt gypped on like those tests as a kid where you had to like fill out the bubbles for your name. That like I didn't get to fill out many bubbles for my last name. Like everyone else is like, got like 15 bubbles. And I'm like, man, I only get to do 4. I'm bored. I'm done already. Oh man. All right. Now I'm distracted myself from what I was saying, which was actually important. Crud. Before Wolfmüllerism, there was Augsburg Confession, or any kind of walking before you can run. And the Wolfmüllerism is his thought. This it's like you have, and I've felt this, I've seen this. It's like this person comes to you, and you're a surgeon in the emergency room, but you're a pastor. Okay, so this is the analogy. Yeah, you're a surgeon in the emergency room, and they come in, and they've got like a gash in their side that's like bleeding, hemorrhage level blood out the side. And they have like cancer growing up the side of their neck and off their face. And it's like so heavy, their head is hanging to the side. Their femur is it femur? Yeah. It's fractured and broken through the skin. They're hopping in, all right? And they say, help. And you go, I got just the thing for you. And you set down in front of them a big book. This is the manual on personal health care. We'll see you in a week. That's kind of our approach. I'm going to leave that right there. System started by Knox as a reaction to the abuse of the RCC and its context. Amen to that. Well said. I'm not sure why it has to be imposed to other cultures. Because they think it's from the Bible. That's the problem. They're called Presbyterians because they think that's like the actual central doctrine of the faith. F.A. Meyer, Religious Bodies in America. Really worth your read if you want to know why all of us are doing what we do. I'm curious what I'd find in the Lutheran section now there. Interesting. That's interesting. Why don't we take books like that? That book should be republished and repurposed as like a bunch of little books. But it's got to be edited. It's just got to be clipped. Move a little bit of the language here. If only I had a publishing house that was mine. So many ideas, not enough time. Mom Monster. I like everything about, I haven't read your comment at all. I like everything about your little thing there. I like your picture. Is that Zelda? Yeah. Your picture, the fact that Mom Monster has 2 M's in the middle. Mommonster. That is awesome. All right. The new duo wanted to meet with me. Oh, what? I said I'd love to share my faith. Been searching for a few years to help up apologetics. 1P. Thoughts. The new duo. Am I missing? I'm missing something. There we go. There's the rest of it. Basically, last time I worded Galatians into a question was the angel Moroni. Oh, you're talking about Mormons? Oh, careful. An angel of lighter darkness. That's well said, though. Talk about an uproar. The host family moved away. Oh, Mom Monster, you're saying lots of things. I got to find more. I don't know what your conversation means. Had the new fresh duo of missionaries on my doorstep last night asking for me by name. The Mormon family down the street hosted me to talk to the last batch of missionaries. Oh, so, and they sent you another batch after the other guys left? Huh. Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I should leave that last one up here. So if you're going to talk to door-to-door cult salesmen, you're probably better off with Mormons than with Jehovah's Witnesses because they're young. But just be aware that there is a tactic at work here, a social tactic, that is in your disadvantage. And I don't just mean like you're not converting them, but they're converting you. And that social tactic is 2-on-1. It's really simple. 2-on-1. You are far more likely to be swayed in a situation where you have to have a conversation with two different people who are actively attempting to change your mind, which they are. They're not there to learn. They're there to teach. Even if they don't know that's what they're there to do. They're actively attempting to change your mind. And you're actively attempting to change theirs. And 2-on-1, you're at a disadvantage. And this is not about intellectual advantage. This is about socio-emotional advantage. And if you think that doesn't matter, I'm sorry. The science says it matters. We do not think as much as we feel. And we do not make decisions as much as we decide to justify what we've already done. Most of our reasoning is just excuse making. And I'm not even really talking about the reasoning and excuses now, but that when we're engaging and acting with each other, there's a whole lot of animal nature there. Created good, but fallen now. Habits, patterns, rules, social cues. I'm not going to go off the deep end here into autism, but people who struggle with autism or other similar challenges, they don't do these things that the rest of us do or are supposed to do, these social cues. So I'm using them as an example of how when someone doesn't do these things the way they're supposed to, we all go, well, it's weird, right? That's like our emotional reaction because we're having this conversation physically, eyeball-y, emotionally, spatially, socioculturally, all the time with each other, even when we're not talking. And we don't know we're doing it. Most of it is just entirely instinctual, natural. But it does come from family patterns and things like that, which is why certain people are drawn to each other, and certain family patterns extend themselves by marrying the same problem over and over again, right? So, fair disclosure, I'm not autistic, but I probably am on the spectrum. And so, being somewhere down the road from normal, I just see it. And I've had to learn to fake it so I don't drive you completely batty. Just ask my wife. God bless her. She stays with me. So when you're in the room with the Mormon missionaries, there's a whole lot of that at play that's not even really, you can't prep for that. You can't plan to overcome that they got you 2-to-1 in sociocultural emotional manipulation world. So the antidote is to meet 2-on-2. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, is get someone else. And it doesn't have to be your pastor. It just has to be someone. So that when they have tactics to deflect you from what you were saying to what they really want to say, they don't get to just do that until you wear out. Here's another example. So like, if you're a parent, you just know this has happened. I'm going to use my wife because it happens to her more just because she's with the kids more than I am. But it happens to me too. Where like, you've decided the answer's no. Right? And like, you held your line. No. And here's the thing. It's not even the same thing. They're different things. It's can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? What about this? Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And finally you go, yes, fine, go do it. And then I come home and I'm like, why are they doing that? I just ran out of energy to say no. Boom. So when they're coming 2-on-1 at you, right, with their ideas, and you're sitting there trying to do apologetics because you're thinking reason, and they're not. They're sociocultural. This is prime to them. Their salvation is tied to this. It's all from the burning of the bosom anyway. boom, 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 boom. You hit a point where you just get tireder than they are. And the danger is that in that moment, the doubt really gets you. And then you start to listen. Yeah? I like your avatar and your name. So I really want to keep you in the Lutheran Church. So that's my word of warning. And my advice is get another person to be in the room with you who wants to be there, who's willing to talk. Can you do it alone? Yeah, you can. Is it safe? No. No, it's not. So, cool stuff. Let's go down to the bottom here again. Oh, bo. Daughter therapist said we're an Aspie family. Huh. I don't know enough to know. I worry about overdiagnosis. I worry about overdrugging. That's been going on in different ways for a long time. But the ability of individuals to perceive social realities, whether it's Augsburger's or what have you, right? That's just everyone knows that. There's people who just are less aware, and if we can diagnose their habits and patterns, or help them have tools to become more better, to become better at managing that, yeah, it's great, right? It's great. The idea that somehow we can diagnose these challenges that we have and then say, well, don't worry about it. That's what bothers me a little bit more too, right? It becomes an excuse for not dealing with reality. It's kind of like if you had, you have a paraplegic who doesn't have any legs, and the doctor's like, well, he doesn't have any legs, so that's normal. Yeah, just let him crawl on the ground the rest of his life. Yeah, he doesn't need a wheelchair. It's normal. Let him be that way, right? So we don't want to do that to our kids with social challenges, intellectual challenges, any of that, right? You always want to help. You want to get better, and the answer to getting better is not always like, here's a pill to make you slow and not pay attention, right? So just be wise, be careful, right? Learn from it. I'm not against it, but also maybe that's the best way to say it. Remember, everything's an industry in this country. Everything's making money, and they make money by selling you things. And just because your insurance pays for it doesn't mean they didn't sell it to you. Yeah. Big pharma, big pharma, big pharma. Someone wants to talk about Redbubble. Joshua Chamberlain sticker, shining paint. Okay, I don't know what that means, but Redbubble's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. I have so many things I want to do on Redbubble that I'm never going to get to. All right. I did say Osburs because I was including it. I was including it in the group, so it was intentional. Freudian. So what am I? Whatever. All right. So Fish echoed the small catechism. Fish echoed the Oxford Confession. Well, that'd be a long book. Yeah. I don't know. I'm working on a different project altogether right now. And if you're on my newsletter, you will see a clip of it this coming Monday. But if you're not, I'm just not going to take the time to repost it all over the place. It's a lot of work. And you may not really like it anyway, because it's really, I don't know if out of the box is the right word. But yeah. Good newsletter this week. You should check it out. I like Space Alien Scientist Fisk. Oh, that was fun. I don't know if I can remember that voice. It'd be fun to have Space Alien Scientist Fisk and like Horace in like a rap off. That'd be awesome. I don't know if we could do it, but it would be cool. It's odd to me that the secularists support it so vehemently. You're talking about, yeah. The non-procreative use of sexual intercourse. Yeah, that through parts of the body that do very different things. Ooh, interesting. Thoughts on how you simply Christmas free. I love it. I make typos. I learned this. I didn't learn. I admitted this week to myself that my carpal tunnel syndrome, which has gotten really bad recently, it probably has to do with oxalate dumping. Let's not talk about it. But you can go Google oxalates if you want to know. I finally realized this week that my carpal tunnel syndrome, which is far worse in my right arm than my left, but it's so bad that it's bad. It hurts to type, and I got to do that all day. Most of it is from this finger hitting delete over and over and over again as I attempt to type a word, and there's the typo, and then there's 6 letters. And I go and I hit delete, 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 and oh, there's another one. Delete, delete, delete. And oh my goodness. I acknowledged, I think this is true. I actually, to write any sentence, I write 2 to 3 sentences worth of full type deletes, right? Like it's that bad. That's how bad a typist I am. And my OCD, which may or may not be Augsburger's related. Oh, that was the Freudian slip. I get it. That's funny. My OCD won't let me leave the typo there and just fix it with, Grammarly later or whatever. What I have started doing is making use of the MacBook's voice control dictation software, which really is pretty good, except for like these weird little bugs, like randomly capitalizing words in the middle of sentences. Odd. Or preferring to use the oddest, like the most multicultural you can think of proper names to normal words that would be used in the sentence. So like the sentence is going along and then you just have this massively strange, I don't know, East Indian name instead of whatever word you thought you said. And it's just like, but I mean, how often am I going to use that name? Why is that in the system? It's weird. What's the other thing? Oh, and then it always wants to put your numbers as numbers rather than as words. But you're writing. This is for writing. Why would I put 22 rather than write 22? I would never. I mean, anyway, it's pretty good though. I've been using it for writing in the morning, and I'm probably getting 600, 700 good words out today in a day by the time I'm done. Which, that's not bad. It's not bad. So that was all out of your typo. Thoughts on how you simplify Christmas for your family? I don't know. How complex is your Christmas? My Christmas, I work on. Always. And that does put some challenges in. It probably makes my Christmas experience very different than yours. And because I work on it and I get to go to church, right? Other people who work on Christmas don't get to go to church. I work on it and I get to go to church. So I come home from church and I'm not like, wow, that was Christmas. I'm like, oh, it's over. Yeah. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But it's like the thing like everything from right now until the 24th at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock is like leading to that moment. And then the next morning as well. So I'm not even done. I got to get up no matter what. You don't want to go to church on Christmas Day? Well, I do. I have to. I guess I could cancel it, but that doesn't make any sense. So, it's just a very different thing. So to answer your question, I don't know that I can even imagine what your Christmas is like. And I don't know how complex it is. I'm going to say this. For years now, finding gifts for my kids has been a growing challenge. And there are several reasons. One is I hate plastic. I hate plastic so much. I don't like its environmental impact and or the fact that we're just basically taking the fossil fuels we need to get food and move society around, and we're turning it into small pieces of crap that we throw into the pit. Okay, so listen, I'm not a hippie here. It's like, look, if we only got so much of this stuff, maybe we shouldn't just burn it without having a reason to burn it, right? And I certainly don't want it all over my floor, so I have to step on it. There's a whole chapter in Broken about this. You can go read about it. Broken. Buy my book. Which I heard this week is in like a Reformed Seminary's bookstore. That's a win. So we're always trying to buy our kids gifts that aren't junk. But that would mean like if you're only going to buy them like a really nice set of boots or something, right? Well, that's the only gift they get. I mean, we're on a fixed income here, and so it's like that they're only going to get that set of boots. Well, that's no fun. They only get to open one present on Christmas. Who's going to like that? So that challenge of trying to find a way to like both cling to our minimalism and our love of nutrition and wellness, which would mean like not a lot of sugar under the tree, all the stuff that's cheap and you can stuff a stocking with. Well, we just kind of don't. And that challenge has been overwhelming. So this year, there was this idea. I like it. Oh, there's one more piece of this, though. So all of that I was just saying before, and then I have to balance it, right? I got 5 kids. And they don't exactly ask for the receipts to tally up how much we spent on each one of them, but they're thinking about it, right? It's like, well, they got this and this and this, and I got this and this, and I got $5 this year. Well, they still love me. They probably do, So you're trying not to have that happen, and it just dawned on me. They were talking about. I think it was my oldest was talking about how she wanted to buy something. Actually, I'm proud of my second. My second's an entrepreneur and an early adopter. So she's the first kid in the house with an iPhone because she bought it. She earned it, and she bought it. Smart, clever kid. They all are, but she goes, right? She sees it and she goes. So my oldest is like, well, I kind of want one now. And she's been saving some money and earning some money here and there. And so she's got some saved up. And then she's thinking about buying it, but she's learned enough now to not waste it, which is also very smart, right? It's like, don't just throw it away. Don't just get something if I can get this advantage somewhere else. And then she says, I really want to buy it. I think I know I'll use it now. I think I'll respect it. But then I wouldn't have money to buy presents for my siblings for Christmas. Oh, good for you, kid. And then she said that my brain immediately went to how my son, my only son, whom I love, who is 8 now, and slightly smarter than 6, but little boys, eager, authentic, kind, foolish. Every time that there's like a baptismal remembrance day, which we do for birthdays, or something like this, like last minute, right, he's seeing the gifts and stuff. He'll like run back to his room, and you'll hear things crashing and all this stuff flying, and dust is in the air. And he comes back, and there's like a tissue paper, like a dirty Kleenex, and it's got a ribbon around it, right? And then the 6-year-old or the 10-year-old daughter is like sitting there looking at it, and thank you. And they open it up, and it's like a penny and a little plastic duck that's brown now because it's like been just on the floor for 3 years, right? Well, thank you. They say they're very kind. And so I have that memory too. It's like, okay, every Christmas, it's like there's this time where I have to watch this very congenially naive, marvelous desire to give, but it's all just crap. And it all dawned on me. Normally, I would kind of loosely budget around $250 for presents, and we're usually going to go over. But we aim for about $250 for 5 kids. I thought, what if I gave them each $50 right now, but they couldn't spend it on themselves, and they had to get something for everybody for Christmas? And then we just said, we're not buying you anything. This is what we're buying you. You get to give all the gifts for Christmas this year. That's your gift. It's like, yeah. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee. I mean, it's like, I don't have to do any of it. It's great. Oh, it's so great. Well, we'll still probably buy some stuff, but shh, don't tell them. But we don't have to, right? And that's how I'm simplifying Christmas this year. I'm just going to let my kids buy the presents. And, well, then how will we not get a bunch of little pieces of plastic in the house? Well, we're telling them they're not allowed to do those things. They know by now, if they bring home a piece of plastic someone gave them at a store, they have precisely like 4 hours till it's in the trash, and they better play with it now because it's gonna be gone tomorrow. So hopefully, most of them won't do that for Christmas level stuff, but that would be how. Yeah. How else? I don't know. Simplify. There's nothing simple about Christmas to me. Did you give a response for like a more if you no. So if you have a response that has like a more specific kind of ask, I can help a little more maybe. Um I would argue the foundational difference is in the nature of being we call God. Oh, this is interesting. This is not what I was talking about. Vicky, I would also go John 8. So Vicky's asking about the Trinity. Pizza is asking about Christians who say God and Allah are the same. Ooh. Well, why? Um, the problem is there when it is claimed that Muslims worship the same God, as in they have just different ideas about his attributes. That seems wrong to me, but I cannot pinpoint it. Yeah, it is. What's weird about it is this. Muslims don't say Allah and the Christian God are the same. Or if they do, they're the first Muslims that are going to be told to shut up when the caliphate's in charge. They're not going to get to say that. That's just so it's really weird, and betrays our shame, our lack of pride in our faith, our lack of belief in our faith, that they're going to bend over backwards to try to convince themselves they're worshiping the same God as someone else who says, no, you're not. What's your end goal here? Self-destruction? Yes. It's nihilism and self-hate and white guilt and all that stuff. It's just nuts. Yeah. The answer as to what to say to them, aside from if you believe that, you're not a Christian, is that Allah can't have a son. That's it. He can't have a son. So Nicene Creed / Athanasian Creed, he who does not cling firmly to this faith is not a Christian. The Trinity. Allah's not a Trinity. It's not a different attribute. The Trinity is not an attribute of God, for Pete's sake. And they also, what they betray is a very loose, limited, ignorant knowledge of who Allah actually is, according to the fundamental Islamic faith. Now, so if they're arguing all entirely based upon liberal Muslims, okay, doesn't mean anything if you're talking about real religion. It just doesn't. It's like saying the Episcopalians speak for everybody. No, they don't. They don't barely speak for themselves. So they don't know who Allah is what is the other thing. You have no idea what you're talking about. There is no like simple, easy answer to that. Other than that, I mean, this is what, okay. So if I had a confirmand say that to me, yeah? Like, well, but they're just the same God after all. I would just I would take a step back and say, okay, so here's the thing. We're going to disagree about this. And it's a pretty significant disagreement. And the long is short is that I'm pretty sure if you hold to that, you're not a Christian. But look, that can be like a really emotional statement. So, hey, it really isn't about whether I like you or not. So I want to make sure that's clear. But what you're just suggesting there, that's bigger than, hey, we all have different ideas about stuff. That's like you don't know what you're talking about at all, based on the actual two religions you're claiming to talk about. So it's a cool thought. I wouldn't say this part. I remember, though, the day I had to be 20. Yeah. How did I get to this point? Where did I get this book? Did I just start with the Bible itself? Maybe I did. I was delivering pizza by day and night, hosting a little bit at the pizza place because I was going to be a waiter, because that's where the real money was. And sleeping on a mattress in an apartment with a guy who I learned later was selling cocaine. I wasn't doing any of that. I was smoking a whole lot of pot, though. And I remember it had to be after work, and well, you got to get high because that's what you just got to do when you're an idiot like I was. There's no other options. Uh, and I remember, at least I was smart enough to know I live by the beach. If I'm gonna get high, I'm gonna get high watching the beach. I mean, that's not wrong. The beach part. So I drove to this spot. It was in La Jolla, I think, and I parked there. I don't know why the Bible would have been in the car with me, because I had my Bible had been given in confirmation, my NAV study Bible, which I wasn't reading. I was keeping my money in it. That's a whole nother story. Cash, tips, all that kind of stuff. And when I was smoking, in the midst of my what happens when you smoke pot is you start to wander in your thoughts, and it's kind of interesting how the brain kind of makes these leaping connections, and you have kind of a burst of creativity. It's not always as creative as you think it is. It maybe never is, but it seems like it, feels like it. And it all just dawned on me. Right? The universe revealed to me that all religions are really the same religion after all, and no one's really just been careful enough to try to figure out how they've all been saying the same thing all along, and if we just put the pieces together, everything will be fine. Now, I generally thought I came to that thought on my own. Like, I really was like, I am the only person who's ever had this thought. It's really clever of me that I got here. Thank God I'm here to help the world understand how all these religions are the same. And I had another book with me somehow. So I started trying. Like, I went straight to it and was going to, like, reconcile, Ugaritic. It must have been because English class I had Gilgamesh. It had to be Gilgamesh. I was going to reconcile, like, Gilgamesh and, like, Ezekiel or something stupid. And I think I maybe made, if I remember that, like, my visual image of the memory, like, I had probably got through about 5 or 6 sentences of notes before I just forgot that I was high, and so didn't notice that I was forgetting that I was doing that, and instead staring at the waves because I was high. But, like, that's the level of this conversation intellectually. I'm not saying they're all high, right? But they're making an argument that an 18-year-old who's stoned out of his mind in his crappy pickup truck while he delivers pizza thinks is the most amazing idea in the world he just came up with. It's just really ignorant. Allah is a different God. Just read their stuff. Listen to them talk about him. He's a different God. He can't have a son. I already said that. He can't have a son. His prophets don't die on crosses. The Quran says Jesus didn't die on the cross. Judas did. I don't know how you can say that's the same God. Apologetics is not the answer to that, by the way. It's not about, I need all the right answers. No. We just need a little more confidence in this thing. Let the social structure work just a touch. Believe in it again. Look, man, I don't have to defend this to you. You're so far outside of reality when you make this claim that even the people you're trying to say are in agreement with us don't agree with you on this point. So I'm not going to try to waste intellectual power convincing you that ketchup is mustard. Or is not mustard. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to try to convince you ketchup's not mustard when you're like, well, the ketchup and the mustard, they're the same thing. They just taste different. Go get high, man. I mean, really. Jeez. It'd be better use of your time than making that argument. I'm not talking to, questioners. It's just well, what is it? Lion King's better than what I just said. Sit down before you hurt yourself. Yeah, that one. Coexist fools. Every time I see one of those bumper stickers, I have a number of thoughts that go through my head. What I really want to do, I won't ever. So please, this is fully like movie. It'd be better if it were like done as an advertisement. I want, in the safest way possible, absolutely crash into their car, run them off the road, and then get out and stand there and wait for them. Like, they're safe, though, right? All I did was ruin their vehicle. They're fine. Don't do this. This is not real. I want in some way, or I'll follow them. This makes more sense. Follow them to a parking lot. and then get out of my car first and walk over and take my key and just key the heck out of their door with them sitting right there. And then back up and stand and wait for them to get out. And when they get out and they're mad and they say, I'm going to be like, can't we all just coexist? But can't, why are you so hateful? Can't we all just coexist? Why do I want to do that? Because it's well, if you didn't get it, then I don't need to explain it to you. It doesn't work. What would I be fired for? By telling the truth about my past? I thought that gave me points. Like, oh, look at, he knows. He's been around. He can really reach people. That's all garbage too. Thank you for sharing your human side. Yeah. Yeah, I know. We have to be honest. Cannot fake who we are with the internet. Man, Joe Rogan's interview. This is not Benjamin I'm talking to right now. Joe Rogan interviews Edward Snowden. It's long. It's detailed. It's a bit scholastic. Holy moly. Golly. We are not a democracy or a republic. It is nuts. People who say we worship the same God as Muslims should read John of Damascus' Refutation. That will work too. But they're making that argument because they already believe something different about Christianity. And it's not just that it's all one, right? They don't believe Jesus is God. They don't believe he died on the cross and rose again from the grave physically. If they say they do, they have a tremendously weird way of not acting on what they believe. Of saying one thing and meaning another. Go to the resurrection of Jesus with them. I'd be willing to bet. Physical, bodily resurrection on the third day and return to raise the dead at the end of the age. I'd be willing to bet they don't believe in that. 95% at least. Zach says, there's always a part of a man that never outgrows his shoe size. What? I say this as a guy in his 40s that sees his inner 13 to 14-year-old surface. Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about. It can't be what my dirty mind would say. That would be wrong. And so I have no idea. Simplifying through delegation. Yes. Christmas. All right. Back to coexist. I've seen one that says, all the same kind of symbols contradict. They can't all be true. Well, that's exactly it, right? Because the argument is they can't all be right, which is true, right? They can't all be wrong. Is that it? Yeah, that's the argument. Is you have so much that it can't all be wrong. So therefore, they're all right. How does that work? Grading on a curve. I lost my bet. What did I lose? What did I bet? I forget. Oh, that they believe in the bodily, physical resurrection of Jesus, and they think Allah is the same God. They're listening to people who don't believe, because that system, and maybe they're not thinking systematically. I don't know. What do they mean when they say it? Physical resurrection? You sure? I'd check on it. 6-day creation is definitely out. Yeah. All right, so, right. So you believe in the bodily, physical resurrection of Jesus from the grave, but you don't believe in 6-day creation because you believe in evolution, which requires death to create everything. So death's not the problem, it's the way God creates, and yet you believe Jesus came to die and rise again to defeat death? What on earth? You've never thought this through. Sorry. You don't believe in the resurrection of Jesus if you don't believe in the 6-day creation before death came into the world. Whatever you think the resurrection of Jesus was, it wasn't the defeat of death, the enemy. Death's your friend. Again, liberalism is vanilla nothing. It's not even vanilla. It's fake vanilla. And at a certain point, it's like, look, you don't even have taste. How can we talk anymore? And I don't mean to be, look, hey, if you're actually this human being right now watching, I'm not angry at you. I love you. I want reconciliation with you. That's why I'm so emotional about it. It's not anger. It's passion, man. This is real. This ain't a joke. My religion's not a joke. So don't sit there and lecture me on how my religion doesn't exist because all other religions are just like it. Yeah. You guys put up with so much from me. You are like my dad. He always thought he had to spend the same on me and my brother. Find them a special gift. Yeah, you're right. It's just time. Time is the thing that's so expensive. Yeah, but what they want is, yeah. I will say that the Metrovania style Salt and Sanctuary, which I think I did mention last week, I discovered has a second player option. So you're in this like sanctuary where the monsters can't get you, and then you get these people that's your village, and you can buy stuff, all stuff, and you go out and you fight, right? And one of the people that shows up says, "Would you like a helper?" And you can say yes. And I thought it was going to be just like a guy that ran around with you, but no, it's like second player, log in now, and it's like, he's 8 now. He can use the controls. The Minecraft has trained him well. We shall see. And we spent 2 hours together last night doing that. That was We've never had that. He wasn't old enough. We've never had it where we could sit and play a video game together, and it wasn't just him watching me because it's like, dude, you're dying, you're dead, you're dying, you're dead. My turn. So it's Salt and Sanctuary, father-son game. A lot of blood. It's really super fake, but just beware of that. You're fighting undead. No, they're not real either. I think it's 8:30, which means, oh no, the front of the no, yeah, front of the video is going to be cut off. So I'm going to go ahead and go so I can get processing. I can get this thing up as a repost audio, all that. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Please do continue sending your questions as long as you don't mind them maybe not ever being answered, but I'm going to make every effort to get to as many as I can whenever I can and pull them back into our walking together in the faith. Yeah. If you have not liked, subscribed, or any of that good stuff to this show, you know that it gets up higher in the search engines when it has more likes, so that's a very important thing to do. And of course, sharing this anywhere, even on evil Facebook, who's watching you, tracking your every movement, and knows everything about you so they can sell it to somebody else, you can still go let them know that you like this show. Yeah, maybe they'd want to sell this show to someone else. No, probably not. But do all that kind of stuff. If you haven't picked up your copy of Broken Ever, wow. Okay. If you've never picked up your copy of Echo, I know that's like a lot of you, right? You should buy Echo, not Broken. Buy Echo. Buy it. Read it. But Christmas is coming, so Echo Broken. Okay. And don't forget that there are some eschatology, end of the world conversations as in book form that you can find under my name on Amazon.com, myself and Brian Wolfmueller. Those are still sitting out there, and while the typos are a problem, it's a good little conversation. Let's see, newsletter. Like I mentioned, there will be, I don't know if I call it a big reveal, but the project I am most in love with right now, which really is not, it's not going to save the world for sure, but but man, I'm enjoying doing it. I'm going to share a little bit of that, as well as some more good finds and all this stuff. Old Testament Lectionary as a text is sitting there. I'm setting it up so you see the gradual and the intro in your email now, and man, are those things cool. So get on that subscription. That'll be in the link below to subscribe to that if you have not already. What else is there? I don't know. Patreon. If you haven't become a Patreon subscriber, would you? $1.25 a week, $5 a month. It's a nice thing. Helps me out. It is linked directly to the podcast, so it makes sure the podcast always keeps going. This thing's obviously free, and will continue to be so. I think that's about it. You all enjoy your Saturday. I'm going to go make sure that podcast does get up and start working on here. Oh, pray for this. Myself and a young man named Adam Boggs have a comic book that's almost done. It's almost done. I just have to stop being afraid of the Indiegogo fundraising campaign to publish it failing, so I can start the campaign. Now, there's a little bit more to do before that, but that's actually the reason I haven't finished the other bit. It's because I'm afraid of you not wanting it. So, kick my butt, pray for me, anything like that. I need to do that today. All right, cool. You have a good afternoon. We'll catch you on the flip side. I need like a good thing to say at the end before I say rock on. Stand firm. Don't wallow in the muck. There you go. Don't wallow in the muck. Rock on.